Hello, my sweeties. Welcome to another YouTube special where we handpick a selection of your best stories shared in the comment section and rattle them off for your amusement. We're going to jump right in, but first some quick business. A lot of you have been asking where I have been recently and if I'm doing okay. If you missed the last video, the last 2-3 weeks were a bit of a shit show. You see, I turned 30 on February 12th. 3 days later, broke it off with my girlfriend of 2.5 years, and as such, had to find a new place to live, work a bunch of overtime at my day job, throw a 30th birthday party for myself, morally support and appear as a witness for my dear friend in court, and of course, move into the aforementioned new place. I'm getting settled in now. It's a great vibe here, and I'm getting caught up on everything. A few of you asked if there was anything you could do to help during this challenging period. I damn near cried, but to be fully honest, the sudden double rent and deposit did put me in the red. So if you really feel like helping out, and please do not feel obligated, I've asked Mr. Ripper to include my old Twitch donation page for my live streaming days of yore in the description. Also, speaking of, we will be live streaming our 50k sub D&D extravaganza on this channel on Friday, March 13th at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and whatever that translates to in your respective pocket of the globe. Now then, you can unpucker your butt cheeks and let's get to the goods. DMs, what is a plotline you've always wanted to run but don't think your players will be into it? Part 3. The characters wake up having lost their memories. They know how to use their skills and abilities, but nothing more. They will follow the clues to reach the cause of their amnesia, a wish made by themselves, granted by a djinn, or something similar. They have one last wish, and if they want their memories back, it will say, "Again? That was your first wish." Well, here we go. The only issue with it is how to deal with clerics and paladins. If I ever begin to DM, then my storyline would be this. The players take shelter inside an old building during a heavy rainstorm. After they get to know each other, an old man ends up hiring them due to a misunderstanding. He thought they went inside to learn about becoming ghost hunters like him. He sends them to investigate this ancient fortress that was once used by an ancient civilization. The major plot twist would be them realizing that the campaign takes place in the real world only centuries into the future. And they find out that they're not stuck inside a haunted fortress, they're stuck inside a haunted IKEA. My group actually did run a town management game. Our characters would take requests from villagers and NPCs that would help to solve short-term problems, but during our downtime, we were each responsible for helping develop one aspect of the town's growth. Our Dragonborn Paladin served as an aide to the village elder to legislate and enforce laws. Our Tabaxi Rogue invested in trade and developed our town's economy. Our half-elf Forge Cleric naturally helped at the town forge to develop our technology and industry. And myself as the Elven Blade Singer performed at the theater to develop the town's arts and culture. I actually had a campaign like this. I ran a one-shot Let's Be Bad Guys game and secretly contacted each individual player a week before the game. I instructed each of them to target one other player character a la Dark Knight's bank robbery. Everyone was on board, and not surprisingly, everyone suspected everyone else of targeting them. Day of the game, everyone is having fun being evil. Then at the end of the night, I say, "There's more than one way to skin a cat." This is the phrase that's supposed to trigger everyone to start attacking each other. But everyone just looks side to side waiting for someone else to do something. So I say again, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Again, nobody declares any actions. Several awkward seconds pass by until one of the players says, "I disappear," and my trained monkeys shake out my 2 bags of holding. A quick explanation. In our games, we've ruled in that all non-living things placed inside of a bag of holding are kept in suspended animation. So he shook up several dither bombs in advance, priming them and putting them in his bags of holding. When the monkeys shook them out, the bombs tumbled out and all triggered at once. It took 5 minutes to roll all the damage, with only 2 players surviving, a bard that was out of the blast radius and a Rakshasa. The Rakshasa and the bard both turned invisible immediately afterwards, and that's when we called it. Jace, the player who had the monkeys, was declared the winner of D&D. For being good sports, I gifted each of them a set of dice, and we let Jace pick first. I've always wanted to run a character-focused plot with 5 players. Players 2 to 4 are told to never interact with player 5, and player 5 only interacts with player 1. Player 5 constantly fails at everything they do, and enemies ignore them. It later gets revealed that player 5's character didn't actually exist, and that player 1 unknown to them, had the permanent insanity trait, and that Player 5's character was just a schizophrenic delusion of Player 1. I really like the idea of the Groundhog's Day idea. There are some ways I think you can make it work. Don't base the entire campaign off of it. The players will get bored of fighting the same creatures repeatedly. Remember that in the greatest movies where this plot happens, they don't show us every single day fully lived out, so it doesn't get repetitive for us. If you did it as some sort of a curse, where when the players rested, they reset the day but never gained any health or anything back, but had to fight the same fights until they found a way to end the curse or cycle, that would be very interesting for the party. Definitely would have to be heavily homebrewed, but I really want to run a steampunk mecha plotline where the PCs are pilots. Story details are as follows. The military was working on AI-controlled units all mounted on state-of-the-art mechs. They go rogue and begin making mass-produced stripped-down copies of themselves to kill all life. The PCs would have to use older models to combat them all while trying to figure out why they went rogue. Having the party rest in a house held by friends and family, only for them to find out they're trapped inside by a barrier. As a series of murders occurs, they discover that the house serves as a prison for a shape-shifting creature, trapped by one of the ancestors of the current owners and that want out. The trick: the creature is played by one of the players, while the real character is trapped somewhere inside the house. If the creature doesn't get out, his character might get killed, so the player has to manipulate the party to break the enchantment, trapping everyone inside, including the monster. But that would require a player all right with me putting his character at death risk without any way to resist or escape. Good enough at role-playing and traitorous enough. Plus, I'm not confident enough to dose correctly between giving my players enough hints and advancing the story without completely railroading them into listening to it. I also need to work a bit on my skill for this kind of story. Need to read more Agatha Christie. I've always wanted to run the campaign I'm running right now. The players during character creation are asked whether they want to be part of the Cult of Asmodeus or the Church of Pelor. There is a fairly even distribution of both choices, but those who chose the Cult of Asmodeus are told that the Church of Pelor is just the front for the cult. The cult would send the PCs out on odd jobs for the cult, sometimes directly benefiting them, sometimes just bringing in money. The cult PCs are sent to watch over the church PCs, while the church PCs have been sent after, being told that these missions will cleanse their souls. Update: just had a session where one of the PCs found out about the cult. She had just died in combat after getting dropped to 0 hit points in the first round. She got a nat 1 on her first death save, which counts as 2 failures, and a 5 on her second. I described after combat was over how she found herself floating up toward the sky, and she could see the hand of Pelor reaching out towards her, and she reaches out to his hand, but just then a massive red hand bursts up from the ground and drags her below the earth. She finds herself in a large chamber. Across from her is an extremely handsome devil, not an expression he has horns, who introduces himself as Asmodeus. He tells her that she is destined for great things, and after a brief chat, he sends her back to the land of the living. She comes to accept her fate throughout the session and has a nice long roleplay bit with another player where she explains most of it to her. She decides that since she's clearly destined for hell anyway, she might as well accept it and lean into it. By the end of the session, only one other PC had died, and that was his own goddamn fault. How about this? The world's heroes have already gone through and done everything but left messes everywhere. The characters are the heroes' descendants and have had to deal with people constantly berating them about the messes their family have left. The descendants of the heroes meet up to fix what the original heroes left. An idea I had was similar to the whole no magic setting, but instead no arcane magic, there is no divine magic. People still worship gods, but the clergy are just spiritual guides/advisors like they are in our world, and healing is done entirely the old-fashioned way with salves and bandages. The main quest would eventually have the heroes discover someone who has powers never seen before, such as the ability to magically heal wounds and turn back the undead. It would be revealed that this person gets their power through worship, effectively being the first and thus far only D&D-style cleric in the entire world. For extra icing, the holy person in question wouldn't be a high-ranking member of the church, just some schmo out in the hinterland who now has holy powers, thus setting up the party with a conflict with the church because they've been branded as witches and heretics. I know many wouldn't go for this because A, who wants to play a campaign with no healer, and B, I imagine most groups would simply turn over the poor holy person to the church under the guise of, well, we can't fight against the church. And besides, How do we know this person is actually getting their power from a god and isn't actually a witch? It'd just be a lot easier to hand them over and be done with it. I've been planning and preparing for about a year now to run campaign for my 7 friends with characters I create and assign to each of them. The 8 of us have gone to school together and competed in world-level robotics competitions together for the last 4 years and have become extremely close. The snag I had with my players was them not being happy with the types of characters I was going to have them play, because I was intentionally making them get out of their comfort zones. But finally, they did come around. To get them out of their comfort zones, I would write each character as a reflection of one of my players and who they are deep down. However, they wouldn't play the characters that reflect themselves, but instead play a character reflective of the person they butt heads with the most in our group. It would be 5th edition, with a few homebrew creations mixed in, and take place in a medieval fantasy world, with the main quest being centered around the mystery of rediscovering their true identities after being memory wiped by a power spell. The campaign would end with the players finally defeating the big bad evil guy, who would be my character reflected from the real world to D&D. He would reveal that he used to be the 8th friend, but had to wipe everyone's memories in order to store them in a magic item he created. He wanted to store them and then duplicate the item to give one to each of them so they would never forget each other. He just needed to finish the memory infusion and duplication of said item, so he delayed them by pretending to bring about the apocalypse, aka the rest of the campaign they just played through. I want to run a campaign of this style to give us a send-off before going to college and separating, the perfect finale to our senior year of high school. I have assembled over 2,000 photos of us from the last 4 years doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I've printed them out and made huge picture albums with custom covers for everyone. Each album has a place inside of it for the group members to sign their name beside a drawing of the character that reflects them in-game that one of my other friends drew. The cover of each is unique. Each one has my own personal drawing of the character I based off of them on the cover, pressed and laminated. I can't wait to give them these at our last session, the day after graduation. I just hope they understand why I did it all. Hello, my flaky, chewy, sweet, and gooey little baklava babies. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. I know that in this, our modern era, attention is a most valuable and fleeting commodity, and I am overwhelmed with joy and gratitude that you have attuned yours to this wonderful little corner of the internet box that we presently occupy. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please feel free to make yourself known in the comments. We're so glad you've joined us. May you digest here endless tales of harrowing heroism, hilarious hijinks, and horny half-elf bards clapping them dragon cheeks. Or maybe dragons clapping them bard cheeks. Anyway, quick reminder, we'll be doing our live stream D&D extravaganza on Friday, March 13th at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Hope to see you there, and if you feel a calling to help your handsome and charming narrator get back on his feet after a strenuous month of heartbreak and transition, feel free to have a quick look at that donation page in the description. As always, may the dice ever be in your favor. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you next time.